Today I'm going to speak about breaking into the iCloud and its services. So before I begin, how many of you people are using an iPhone or an iPad? Wow, more than half of you. Okay, so how many of you do regular backups of whatever stuff you have there? Not many. Okay, so maybe you should consider having a backup. It's a good idea. So, yeah, it's a good idea for you, and it's a good idea for us. And it's a good idea for law enforcement, obviously. So anyways, why do we need this iOS forensic stuff? Well, the iPhone has been more than 5 years on the market. There are 6 different models. There are 5 iPods and 5 iPads. Lots of users, more than 600 million user base of all the Apple iOS devices sold. And those are smart devices. They carry an awful lot of information inside. That information includes your files, your communications, and your geolocation information, historically. So they record all your movements and basically everything you do, everything you chat about, everything you email about, all your calls made or received, everything. The corporate deployment of iOS devices is also increasing because of how Apple implements security. Now, you probably know that BlackBerry, the previous platform that used to be the most secure, is quickly declining right now. And it pretty much gave up all the market except the US. So Apple is seeming to be taking up this space quickly. So the user base is enormous, the perspectives are great, and we must do something about it. iOS is a very secure operating system, and iOS devices are very secure as well. They are protected by multiple levels of security. I have this link here, the disk encryption link. You can review what Apple has to say about security. This document is pretty comprehensive, and it's a good overview. I'll just stop by quickly by most interesting points. So the first thing iOS devices are protected with is the passcode. Now, Apple security is mostly wrapped around the passcode, and it's more dependent on the passcode than everything else. In iOS devices, passcode is a totally different thing compared to, say, Android phones, because it's not enough to just circumvent the passcode or to bypass it or to go around it. You won't get access to any information stored in the device because the actual encryption keys are based on the passcode. It's used to generate the actual encryption keys. So unless you know the passcode, you can't really access any information stored inside. Another thing is disk encryption. Many applications can turn on disk encryption just for their data, and if it's done, everything is encrypted. So it won't be accessible even if you break into the iOS device without knowing the passcode. And finally, there is the keychain. The keychain is a system-wide storage for sensitive data, like your website passwords, email accounts, and email account passwords. An application can request their own data to be stored in a keychain, and then it's going to be encrypted as well. Keychain is probably the most secure storage ever invented for a portable device. It's pretty much impossible to break into a keychain because it's protected with a hardware, with a hardware-generated key. So without a particular hardware device, without that iPhone, the original iPhone that stores the keychain, you cannot decrypt the keychain. So pretty much everything is encrypted, and we have to do something about it, obviously. There are only 3 ways known to get into this information. First, we have the logical acquisition. Second, we have the physical acquisition. And third, we have the iCloud. Logical acquisition is the simplest. Historically, it was the first method of getting into the iPhone. To acquire information stored in the device logically, you just need to have either the backup produced by iTunes or whatever, or the actual device. If you know the passcode, you get in, you convince the device to make a backup, and then you can analyze that backup. Now, the problem here is that the backup itself might be encrypted if that option is selected, and you can not uncheck this option unless you know the password. So you have to break the actual encryption with software like ours. The second problem here is that keychains stored in these backups are normally not accessible. Even in unencrypted backups, the keychains are going to be encrypted with a hardware-specific key, and they can only be accessed in the device. Now, there are certain exceptions from that. There are certain models and certain versions of iOS and certain configuration settings, like having an encrypted backup, where you can actually have access to keychain information. But anyways, not everything is going to be stored in a backup. So logical acquisition is never complete. It never gives you full access to all the information available in the device. Physical acquisition is a different species. Physical acquisition gives you access to all the information stored in the iPhone or iPad or iPod. You must have the original device. However, its lock state is irrelevant. So you can physically acquire a device even if it's locked with a passcode. And for certain devices, you can also break the passcode by brute force or whatever, especially for digit passwords. Now, how you do physical acquisition? First, you have to have a boot time exploit to make the device be able to run on-site code, or you have to have a jailbroken device. And then you can connect it to the PC, put the device into a DFU mode, and basically get the stuff. It will be decrypted on the fly by software like ours, for example. Now, the problem here, this would seem to be the golden age of iOS forensics, because it will give you access to enormous amount of information, pretty much everything. It works really fast, so it took only about 40 minutes to acquire a 32 gigabyte device, I believe. The problem here is that it does not work for the new devices, the 4S, the 5, or the iPad 4. So the golden age of iOS forensic has come to an end. We had to invent something else. Now, before I go to the iCloud, let me talk a little bit about iOS 4 passcodes. There can be different types of passcodes. The 4-digit passcodes, those are pretty easy to break, although it's very slow, because you can only try the passcode on the device itself. So you can try up to 4 or 5 passcodes per second, which is painfully slow, but a 4-digit passcode can still be recovered, even with this speed. Now, there are longer numeric-only passcodes, and those can be already impossible to break because it would take too much time. And of course, there are alphanumerical passcodes. They're too secure, so pretty much you can forget about breaking them. Now, let me remind you that iOS devices use these passcodes to actually encrypt information stored inside, and now you'll understand the importance of this. Now, about the iCloud. We look at the iCloud as a way to obtain more information from the iOS devices. It was introduced in October 2011 together with iOS 5. Up to 5 gigabytes of free storage is provided to every iOS user, and you can buy 50 gigabytes more. So you can get 55 gigs of storage, so that's the maximum limit. Up to 300 million users registered with iCloud. That's about half of the entire user base of iOS devices. So every second user of an iPhone has an iCloud account. iCloud can keep backups, documents, settings, and it has the Find My Phone service that allows tracking geolocation information of the phone in real time. So I'll talk a little bit more about iCloud services before I proceed to break in the iCloud. Here is how it looks from the iTunes. You can see Mail, Contacts, Calendar, Notes, Reminders, Find My Phone, iWork. And basically, this is the iCloud control panel. Now, why should anyone make iCloud backups? Because of this. You can easily break or lose or get your device stolen, and you lose an enormous amount of information. Now, I'm not being sarcastic here, but losing your information can be a tragedy for most users, especially if you only have one iOS device and never had a backup on your local PC or in a cloud. So if you have an iCloud device and you lose your iPhone, for example, you can just go to the nearest Apple store, buy a new device, initialize it, enter your account details, and have it restored with complete information, including all the contacts, the phone book, messages, email, pictures, everything, in a matter of hours. This is especially useful if you are on a trip, and you're much more likely to lose your phone when you are on a trip. So this service is actually useful, and it's used by every second iOS user now. iCloud backups contain contacts and contacts favorites, messages, call history, application data, device settings, camera roll, purchases, mail accounts, network settings, and much, much more. They are made daily, and if you configure the settings correctly, iCloud backups will be created every time you dock your iPhone or you connect it to a power source, and it's locked, and it's connected to a Wi-Fi network. So pretty much every time you're at phone, charging your phone, it will make an iCloud backup. You can also force the backup to begin manually by doing the following sequence in the phone. So in the settings, you can make the phone to back up the data now. And basically, here are the settings. So you can make the backup to an iCloud automatically every time it's available, or you can make backups on your computer. Now, for us, for Alcomsoft, it doesn't matter where you make your backups. The only thing that matters is that you made your backups. Then we can take your backup and analyze it, of course, and break your password. Now, you can also manually backup and restore information. And you can also configure it from the device itself. So here is how your backups look from the control panel. Now, before we proceed to how we did the actual break into iCloud backups, we are often asked the question, why bother? Because we still need the original Apple ID and password of the person whose backup you're going to access. So why bother breaking into iCloud if information is accessible anyways? Well, actually, it's not accessible. You cannot access iCloud backups from your PC. You cannot access this information from the iTunes. You cannot download it from iTunes. The only thing you can meaningfully do with an iCloud backup is to get a fresh device or a freshly reset device, the iPhone, the iPad, or whatever, initialize it, enter user's credentials, and have it restored from the iTunes from the iCloud backup. Then you can have in the actual phone, you can perform a backup to your PC and then analyze that backup if you are a forensic customer, for example. That's very inconvenient. It's slow, it doesn't give you full access to all the information, and you have to have the actual device on hand, so it's not convenient. So we felt the need to provide this other way to access iCloud backups to our forensic customers. And here's how we did it. We did a classic man-in-the-middle attack in order to split the traffic, the communication between the device and the iCloud servers. So first, we had to jailbreak an iPhone, and for that, we had to have an iPhone that could be still jailbroken. So we used iPhone 4, not the 4S, not the 5. Then we installed OpenSSH and obtained keychain from the phone. The file name is keychain2db. Then we deleted all the information from the device, reset it to factory defaults, and rebooted it. Now, we set up a Wi-Fi connection using our own proxy and replaced the original keychain inside the device. And remember, the device is jailbroken, so we can do that with our own trusted root certificate. So now we could actually sniff all the HTTPS traffic going between the iOS device and the iCloud servers. So we read the traffic. So what did we find out? First of all, the backups are dynamic. Each file or each part of file can be stored on a different server in a different infrastructure. Endpoints depend on the exact Apple ID of the user. The entire thing is built on Google protocol buffers, mostly. And files are not stored as actual files. Instead, they're split into chunks. And those chunks are stored randomly and encrypted with different keys. So it's pretty much impossible to just simply download them to the PC and do something meaningful with them. Now, Apple provides a pretty comprehensive file-to-chunks mapping. They store actual chunk encryption keys, and they give all the request info, along with the encryption keys, to third-party providers, such as Microsoft or Amazon. The encryption key depends on the actual chunk data, so it's unique for each chunk. This is how the files are actually stored there. So you can see the containers. Each container has a unique URL. Each container can have several chunks, and each chunk is encrypted. Now, there is a chunk-to-file mapping. You can see it on the bottom. So you can actually reconstruct a particular file out of many chunks. This is a pretty complex system, considering that every container may be stored on a different server, different URL. So here's how we actually did it. First, you have to authenticate your request by doing the authentication query. So this is an example URL. And I'm not expecting you to remember this, but you'll be able to get the slides afterwards. Now, after the query, you have to get a different authorization token, after which you'll have to get a list of backup IDs. Now, each device can have up to 3 backups, so 3 recent backups are stored in the iCloud. They're incremental, so every time something is changed, you don't have to upload the entire information, just the chunks that changed. But anyways, you can select any backup, like the most recent one or the oldest one or the one in the middle. And then you get the query for actually getting the encryption keys. So after that, you enumerate the snapshots. And remember, there are 3 snapshots there. Get authentication tokens. And finally, you post a request to get actual URLs to file chunks. Now, the file chunks can be stored in a cloud maintained by either Microsoft Azure or Amazon. And those are not Apple servers. Those are third parties. So Apple trusts Microsoft or Amazon with information from the iCloud backups. And because it's accompanied with actual encryption keys, it can definitely be accessed by Apple or the third party. Now, here's how I would summarize the iCloud encryption. All information is stored with a third-party provider, Google or Microsoft, and it's encrypted. But Apple has encryption keys to that data, and third-party providers have encryption keys to that data. Now, some files are further encrypted with OTA over-the-air keybags, and definitely keychain items are encrypted with OTA keybags. So basically, if you download keychains, you can do nothing with them unless you have the original iOS device, not the device you're storing them to. So keychain information cannot be transferred between devices in current version of iOS, and I'll get to that later. You will need key 835 to actually access the keychain. And as I said, this key is hardware dependent, and you cannot get it, so you won't get into the keychain. To summarize iCloud backups, there is no user configurable option for encrypting iCloud backups. They are stored in Microsoft or Amazon clouds in encrypted form. And as I said, Apple has the actual decryption keys. Now, the question remains whether Apple has the actual 835 keys or not. If they have them, and if they store them, they could be able to use them to actually retrieve the keychain information. They might have legal obligation to do this even. However, my information here, and it's pretty current, that Apple doesn't. So every time the police has a court warrant to do a data recovery of an iOS device, they have to send it to Apple. Then in a certain time, and the usual turnaround here is about 1 to 2 months, Apple will send all the information back to the forensic customer, except keychain information. So we had lots of reports from the police about that, and it seemed that even Apple doesn't have the keys, which is good from security standpoint. But it's going to be changed. Okay, in March 2013, Apple made minor revisions to the protocol. They basically added these 3 lines here, and we did have to modify our own software to be able to access information again. And they changed the client info and user agent information. The next service available as part of an iCloud is Find My Phone. This service basically returns the exact geolocation information of the device, and it's pretty precise because of the built-in GPS receiver in real time. So we tried to reverse engineer the Find My Phone protocol to actually receive access to all this information and to be able to actually track Apple devices. So we just did the same type of an attack. With a man in the middle, we sniffed the HTTP traffic between the phone and the iCloud, and here's how it works. So first you have to validate a client and receive the GUID. Then you would have to log in to the iCloud using the actual Apple ID and password and this unique validation string. Then you would initialize the client, and the client here is an iOS device, such as an iPhone. And then you would refresh the client, and you will be getting the content, which is the exact phone location, so the complete GPS coordinates. Now, there are certain specifics of obtaining this geolocation information from the device. So if we request the Find My Phone application on the phone, a push request is made to the device with this protocol. If Find My Phone and location services are enabled in the device. If they're disabled, the device will not return the location. More on that later. So current iOS devices, if they're stolen and if the thief actually disables geolocation information like location services, the device will not be possible to be discovered. Now, from the forensic perspective, constant refresh requests retrieving information about the phone GPS location will cause severe battery drain. The phone will hit, the battery will discharge very quickly, so it's very likely that the user will notice. Forensic customers usually don't want that, so they don't send refresh requests pretty often. However, for other applications, such as tracking or moving or I don't know, there are other things, it might be of an issue. Now, finally, this location information is stored in the iCloud for 3 hours, and then it's deleted forever. So this is a demo output of Find My Phone service. You can see that we're making a request, and on the first listing here, we are receiving the exact geolocation coordinates of the device, accompanied with a battery level. Some devices, location services are not enabled, and some devices are probably switched off or something. So we're not getting anything meaningful out of the request. The third part of the iCloud is document. The iCloud can store user documents in multiple formats, and this is separate from your backups. Now, if you access these documents via iCloud, they are going to be available in the iWork format only. If you want a PDF or a PowerPoint or whatever, you have no choice. Now, technically, the iCloud can convert these documents to any other format. And our product, Alcomsoft Phone Password Breaker, can actually make this request and receive these documents in pretty much any format. So here is how it looks in the iTunes or on the device itself. And here is the control panel. Now, in order to get these documents, you have to get the list of files first. To do that, you have to send the authentication request accompanied with the Apple ID and passwords. Request account settings, request the file list, and download the given file. Now, as I said, certain documents are going to be available only in the iWork format. This includes Keynote, Pages, Numbers, certain other programs. If a third-party application stores its documents in the iCloud, these documents are not going to be accessible through the iCloud website, but they can still be retrieved by our software. So here's a summary of requests: validate, login, export, and by export I mean we request the iCloud server to convert the document to a different format, like PDF, for example. Then check export status, because the request is not instant. And then when a document is ready, we can download it. So this basically allows forensic customers with a Windows PC have access to all the documents without having an Apple PC. And here is a demo output for accessing the iCloud docs. And that's our product. Now, what are the possible uses of all this? There are certain peaceful uses, and there are, of course, forensic. So for iCloud backups, you can do a near real-time acquisition, including SMS messages, communications, iMessages, mail, call logs, etc., etc. I call it near real-time because the user does not update their iCloud backups in real time, so it's only once a day or so. For that, you can also browse information available in the device. You can also download only certain specific types of data. And with our software, like, the backups are incremental, so you can only download those parts of backups that have actually changed. Now, the Find My Phone service is really interesting because you can do lots of tracking applications, like logistics, moving, pretty much everything. You can use Google Maps, you can have routes, you can have pretty much everything. You can track iOS users to enter or leave a predefined area, and that would be useful for surveillance. Also, you can track 2 or more devices, and you can set up alerts when the 2 devices are in the same spot, so if the 2 people meet. Now, documents in the iCloud can be opened in a third-party application if you use our product. If you just download them from iTunes, you'll only get them in the iWork format. You can track changes, so you can see work in progress. And with our product, you can download unsupported data formats that Apple does not know about. Now, finally, this is the major reason why we did it, it's forensics, because the majority of our customers are forensic customers, law enforcement and intelligence. So which tools can you use to actually retrieve this information? Well, in order to access the iCloud, you would use our product, which is Alcomsoft Home Password Breaker. Now, I'm not advertising the product here, and every participant here can request a free copy. So you can grab my business card and send us email, and we'll be pleased to give you a free copy of this. Now, what our product can do, we can retrieve all the iCloud backups, not just the most recent backup. We can do real-time tracking of these backups because we support incremental backups, so we will only be downloading chunks that have actually changed. We can download individual documents and convert them to any format you like a PDF, for example. We can download the backup in per file format, or we can convert it to the familiar iTunes format. So we'll create an offline backup that can be used to restore a new device, for example, from your PC, or can be used by some forensic tool to discover information about user activities. Now, as I said, iCloud backups are encrypted. So we will use on-the-fly decryption, and the backup that we download is going to be decrypted already, so it can be analyzed in real time. And finally, by accessing the backups with our software, the iOS user will not receive a warning email from Apple. And this is pretty important for forensic customers. Now, I must stop a little bit and talk about this warning email. Now, if you lost your iOS device, bought a new one, initialized it, and restored an iCloud backup on that new device, Apple will send you a warning email saying that someone has restored a new device with your iCloud backup. And if you did not authorize that, contact Apple immediately. Now, our forensic customers would definitely not want that. So when you access information with our product, for some reason, I don't know why, Apple does not send this email. So we can actually retrieve information about the user from the iCloud without them even noticing. It can be good or bad, but that's a fact. Now, what you do later with that backup that you just retrieved, if you are a forensic customer, you would use a specialized software, for example, Oxygen Forensic Suite. This product is pretty comprehensive. It gives a lot of information about the phone user, and it actually gives more information than the user thinks that they provided. It not only does comprehensive forensic analysis, it can also retrieve information available in all built-in and many third-party applications installed on the iOS device. For example, if you installed Skype, Skype calls can be retrieved, not the actual voice calls, but chats and text messages. All this information can be then added to a single timeline of activities. So basically telling the investigator what the iOS user did at a certain time, where he was located at that given time, who he communicated with, and the software can actually draw a list of communication circles. You can see it on that smaller screenshot there. So all the communications between different iOS users are recorded. It can also analyze more than one iOS device at a time, and this gives amazing possibilities. Now, I need to add a little bit about Apple's new two-factor authentication. Apple introduced two-factor authentication just recently, and it's a pretty new thing, and I think it's been a reaction to certain happenings of compromised Apple accounts and basically the chain reaction. So Apple would require a two-step validation if you would like to sign into your My Apple ID from a different device. if you want to purchase something from iTunes or App Store or iBook Store from a new device, or if you have to get Apple ID related support from the company. Now, for all these activities, Apple will send a single-use verification code to one of your trusted devices, and you must set up a trusted device first. The code usually will be the 4 digits. You will have to enter these 4 digits in order to be able to proceed with your request. This is pretty secure, and many banks, especially in Europe, have been doing it for ages. Well, it's only here now, and I think they're going to be expanding this service. However, Apple's two-factor authentication specifically does not protect certain things. First, the 2FA does not apply to iCloud backups. Now, if we think of it, there is a good reason why iCloud backups are not protected with two-factor authentication. Let's say you are on a trip. You only have one trusted Apple device, or you have one device at all. You don't have a computer with you. Now, your iPhone gets lost or stolen. You go to an Apple store and buy a new device, initialize it, and want to restore information from the iCloud. So if Apple had two-factor authentication on that, the validation code would be sent to your missing device, and probably the thief would get it, but not you. So there is a certain conflict here between our security and convenience, and obviously Apple decided for convenience. So you will not have to produce this validation code when you're recovering from the iCloud. Now, Find My Phone data is also excluded from two-factor authentication. And the reason is pretty much the same, because the only trusted device you might have could just be stolen. So you want to be able to use this service to be able to find that only device you had, and not being bugged by two-factor authentication. As I already mentioned, if you restore a new iPhone or a new iPad from the iCloud, you will receive an email from Apple stating that someone, maybe you, attempted to restore a new device with your iCloud information. If you didn't do that, contact Apple security team. However, iCloud backups retrieved with our software, for some reason, are excluded from that. So Apple does not send an email. We don't know why, but that's a fact. This is how Apple two-factor authentication looks. So if you try to sign in to iTunes from a new PC, you will be required to enter the verification code. And that verification code is actually sent to your trusted device. You would have to set up a trusted device beforehand, of course. The 4 digits have to be entered there, and then you'll be able to access the items. Now, this all applies to the current version of iOS, the iOS 6. And a couple of weeks ago, Apple released the first beta version of iOS 7. iOS 7 has slightly different security implications, and slightly different implementations, and slightly different security policies. So first major thing implemented there is that disabling location services in an iOS 7 equipped device now requires your Apple ID password. Not the passcode, but the Apple ID password you use to sign into your Apple account or the iCloud. As I understand, this is done to provide better chances to recover a stolen iPhone device. And this is a welcome addition for everyone, I think. Now, another major thing implemented in iOS 7 is the ability to synchronize keychain information between different iOS devices as well as macOS X devices, so the PCs. For that, Apple now introduced the ability to store keychain information in the iCloud. For that, you would have to enter a separate password. It's not the same password used to sign into iCloud, and it's not your device passcode, it's something else. And the final major thing is the new icons. We find them downright ugly. Now, here is how the keychain thing works. In order to be able to store your keychains in the iCloud in iOS 7, you would have to set an iCloud security code. And then you would have to set an iCloud security password. So those are two different verification things. And here is how the keychains look in macOS X. So you can see the keychain, and you can see information stored about different websites. Now, in order to access keychain or restore keychain information on a new iOS device, you would have to enter your iCloud security code. And then, as a second step, you would have to enter the verification code that would be sent to one of your trusted devices, or would be delivered as an SMS to a phone number that Apple has on file. And the last screenshot is the actual notification of this request when someone from another device attempts to use it. So I would like to make a conclusion now. Currently, and especially in iOS 7, I believe that Apple reached a certain balance between security, privacy, and convenience. Now, they might be biased toward convenience a little bit more than some customers would prefer, and they might be biased more towards security than some other customers would prefer, but overall, it's a pretty good balance. iCloud presents certain security risks, and those risks are again because of the Apple's bias towards convenience rather than security. So, for example, lack of two-factor authentication for iCloud backups might seem unforgivable in one circumstances, but it's totally understandable from the user perspective. What Apple could actually do to further increase security without compromising convenience is to extend the use of two-factor authentication to cover more things than it currently does. Use additional encryption, like the full disk encryption, for example. And they also need further work for protecting photo streams, third-party apps data, passwords, keepers, and so on and so forth. But as I said in the first paragraph, it's a pretty good balance right now. iOS 7 addresses certain concerns, and it adds other concerns. The ability to store and synchronize keychain information added in iOS 7 means that keychain data, and let me remind you that keychains contain the most sensitive information about your account, such as website passwords, credit card information, etc., etc. So iOS 7 allows this information to be stored in the iCloud, encrypted with a software key. So it will be protected by that 4-character passcode and that verification password that you set up, instead of the hardware password. For us, and we already started working on it, it means the possibility of retrieving the actual keychain information from iCloud backups. Because we'll be able to break, we hope we'll be able to break the actual encryption by attacking these software passwords. And the hardware encryption was unbreakable. So it's a good shift for us. And again, it's a shift towards convenience, because synchronizing keychain information between your different devices is definitely convenient. Now, another thing is not related with iCloud, so I'll be really brief with that, is Windows phones. Windows phones also have backups, and they also have cloud backups. So as Windows phones gain their market share, we start seeing the need to retrieve this information. And we're currently working on a product that will be able to actually get this information for Windows Phone backups. Well, that will be all, and I would like to thank everyone for your attention. You will be able to get slides for this presentation if you get one of my business cards and send me an email, and I'll send you back a link to this file. or you can leave me your business card if you have one, or you can just visit this website here, which is blog.crackpassword.com. And in a few days, we're going to have a blog post about this conference, and I'll upload the slides there as well. Okay, so that's all, and you can ask me questions. Yes? Sorry, I didn't hear you. Can you give it more loud?
Can you hear me? Yeah, no?
I can't hear you, sorry.
Oh, okay, there we go. I was just curious, for the passcode on iPhones, what's the algorithm used to derive the key that's used for encryption?
It's a pretty comprehensive algorithm, and it's AES 256 repeated, I think it's 10,000 times on certain devices, 20,000 times on some other devices.
Wow.
So it's hashed, it's salted, it's pretty secure, and the actual speed to calculate a single hash, the final hash value from a 4-digit passcode, it's about 1/4 of a second. And it's been pretty constant on all devices. So the more powerful hardware they put in a new iPhone, the more cycles of AES 256 they use to derive the final hash.
Thanks.
Yes?
Given your insight into the cloud infrastructure, besides simply not using it, for those people that want to tip the scale, perhaps make it more secure, do you have any insight? So, for example, if I made a backup and in the middle, I do my own encryption, and then upload that. So then when you somehow pull it or it gets pulled, it would be useless. Instead of relying simply on the iCloud to store it, the actual encryption mechanism to the user.
Okay. So the question was, will I recommend using this iCloud backup for an ordinary user or for a tech-savvy user? Or would it be more secure to actually encrypt information on a local device before sending it to the iCloud? Is that correct? Yes. Okay.
Yes, and if that's already been discovered or done.
Or yes, or if it's been discovered or implemented already. Well, no, it's not been implemented already because the mechanism is implemented by Apple. So there is no user configurable encryption settings for iCloud backups. The user cannot use additional encryption. You cannot produce a backup and then upload it to the iCloud. So that's pretty much it.
Would that be possible to somehow?
At this time, no, that would not be possible. The only thing you could do to do it a fully manual way, so you could make an offline backup of the entire phone, then encrypt it, then upload as a document to the iCloud. But then why bother using iCloud for that purpose? You could use any service like Dropbox or like your own website. So it doesn't make sense. The entire point of the iCloud is convenience. And you would lose that convenience if you do this extra step. Now, the first part of the question was if I can actually recommend an ordinary user or a tech-savvy user to make use of iCloud backups or not. Well, from the user perspective, the service is definitely worth it because the convenience of being able to restore all of your information in a case you lose your device or your device gets stolen, in my opinion and in opinion of other company members of Alcomsol, it far outweighs the possible security implications. Now, you could do things to secure those backups because as I already told, in order to be able to retrieve the backup from the iCloud, we do need to have the original Apple ID and password. Now, if you use a really secure password that's unique to your iCloud account or to the Apple account, and that's not reused anywhere else, like for accessing your email, for example, and that is not stored in one of the emails sent to your email account that could be hacked. So basically, if you and only you know the password and the password is secure, then we would not be able to access your backups, and no one will be able to access your backups, actually. Yes?
Do you have any information about the legality of fetching forensics artifacts from the cloud? I mean, for instance, if I'm doing a forensics investigation, I'm able to recover someone's email password. I can't just download all their email from Gmail. Like, that would not be legal in the United States, as far as I know. Shouldn't there be a reasonable expectation of privacy? Do you have any information about that?
Yes, so the question was about legality of doing the thing mostly for forensic customers. Can they legally do this? Can we legally watch the customer, or can we legally watch the activities of an iOS user? Well, the answer is it depends. It depends on jurisdiction, first and foremost. For example, in the United Kingdom, if they get a wiretapping order from the judge, then they can legally use whatever technical means to wiretap the suspect. This includes this. In the United States, and now I'm being on a shaking ground here because I don't know the exact legislation there, but as far as I've been told by our police customers, they do need a permission from the court to use every single technical mean to wiretap a certain suspect. So they would need a special permission from the court to download iCloud backups, and they would need another special permission from the court to use the Find My Phone services. So it's not the same as a universal wiretapping permission in the UK. But yes, it's still possible with a court order and a proper court order listing specifically the iCloud and the Find My Phone service would normally be required for US policemen. Yeah, the question is if the tool is only available to law enforcement. No, we used to be only selling this tool to law enforcement customers, but then we found out that the tool is often used by commercial companies who want to make peaceful use of it. For example, they use Find My Phone service to track deliveries for logistic purposes. They use it for tracking their own employees, and tracking their own employees can be legal dependent on the actual agreement or the actual company policies. So we started selling it to everyone. It's universally available at the time. Yes? Yeah, the question is if you reported the fact that the backup can be retrieved without notifying the user. No, we're not that stupid. Okay, any more questions? Okay, I don't have any more questions, so that seems to be it. And thanks everyone for your attention and for your questions. As I said, you can get one of my business cards and send me an email, and I'll send you a link to this presentation slides, or you can leave me your business card and I'll do the same. Thank you.